In this episode, we talk about how to keep the honeymoon phase alive in your relationship.
Masculinity for the intelligent man. I'm David Tian, Ph.D., and this is Man Up!
Welcome to Man Up, episode 6. And today we have a question from Nicholas. By the way, this should be somewhere around week 2, so I'm pretty happy about that. Again, these are coming out every day. That's the idea anyway. So look out for the next one on a daily basis. We're on Facebook. We're going to be on YouTube. We're going to be in various other of our websites. So spread the word. Let your friends know if you like this. Share it and say nice things. You don't have to say nice things. Just share it. That's fine. Okay, let's dive into the question from Nick. My question is, hi David, my question is about keeping the honeymoon phase going in a relationship. And he says, it also brings up the question if men in particular are meant to be with just one woman. I wonder, because of our sexual needs as men, I see so many men, after they get married and have kids, their wives don't want sex. Thanks, Nicholas. Okay, actually there's quite a lot in there. Let's just first deal with the first sentence, which is, how do I keep the honeymoon phase going in a relationship? So, if you're asking this, I'm assuming you're in a relationship, and usually the honeymoon phase will last 3 months to a year. Sometimes, depending on how much external drama there is inducing, in that relationship, it can induce passion in it. If there's a lot more barriers or external conflicts that they have to band together and overcome, it can last as long as 3 years or more in some cases, exceptionally. But the honeymoon phase is usually around 3 months to a year. And then what usually happens then is things get into a routine. And even sex, which you brought up at the end, Nicholas, becomes routine because there's only so much that the average people can do when it comes to sex. Most people just have it. In other words, they just are in the bedroom naked and they just go at it and have sex. There isn't much more variety there, and there isn't any unpredictability. So the first thing and the most basic step, if you find your relationship is stagnating, is to be clear whether you are actually in love. Do you actually love each other, or do you feel connected to each other? Do you want to stay in this relationship? Is it something you want to invest time and effort into? Do you want to invest in it? If the answer is yes, that you love this person, but it's just not as exciting anymore, you love them in the sense of you want the best for that person, you enjoy being there for them, you enjoy supporting them, and you enjoy that they support you, but it's just not passionate anymore. So what should you do? And in this case, the first and easiest thing you can do is to create more unpredictability, more variety, introduce more surprises in the relationship. Do things you've never done before, and an easy one is travel. I'm blessed to be in Southeast Asia, currently here in Singapore, and if you're in Singapore or pretty much anywhere. You can jump, you can fly or take a bus or take a train or drive out a couple hours to a new place and explore together. You can do new activities and take up new hobbies together. And you can also just be unpredictable. So try to surprise her with something that you've never done before. Yes, this requires effort. You have to think about it ahead of time, but that's the easiest thing you can do. So that's one thing. We'll call that number one, is to introduce more variety into your relationship. The second thing is, as a relationship progresses, the man and the woman tend to depolarize in terms of their masculinity and femininity. Okay, this is a very deep and profound topic. And in fact, that's really what masculinity for the intelligent man is all about. And so we're not going to shy away from these maybe a little bit less PC topics. Then again, like meeting women in clubs isn't really PC either, but I think this is less mainstream, talking about masculinity and what masculinity and femininity really are. And in a relationship, what will happen is you become more like your partner over time. So that even happens physically. You might see people who have been together for a long time and their faces start to look similar. Their fashion sense starts to look similar. That's just the normal thing. Because why? Because you become who you hang out with. who you associate with. And if you're in a relationship, you're going to be associating with one particular individual in the whole world more than anyone else, and so it's natural for that to happen. But what happens over time is that the masculine and feminine polarities depolarize. So you become less masculine, she becomes more less feminine, you become more feminine, she becomes less feminine. Overall, in general, on the whole, okay? So there are always exceptions to this, but that's on the whole. Now, what often happens when the honeymoon phase dies is that the man has given in, so to speak. So for instance, the woman is saying, might say, like maybe at the beginning of the relationship, he was a real manly guy, in the sense of like, that's not what masculinity means, by the way. Masculinity and manly are different. But at the beginning of a relationship, I'll take a case, a client of mine who loved to do sports, and these were like rugby, and really like physical sports. And he met this girlfriend who became his wife. And then in the relationship, she was sexually abused by a family member, and early on when she was young, and then her husband was abusive. You can see a trend here. And then when she got into this relationship with my client, she told him all of this history, and that made him afraid to be himself, in the sense of to be more masculine, to stand up for himself, to be more assertive. And it definitely translated into in the bedroom, where she would say, she's afraid of anything really physical, and so they always had really gentle sex. And then after a few months of that got really boring, and she was very unfulfilled. And so I actually worked with both of them, talked to them both, and in the end, what she really wanted was for him to step up, to be more dominant, to give her the feeling that she could just submit. And there's a little bit of danger and excitement there when he gets a little more physical, like a little slapping, a little hair pulling, a little dirty talk, which he enjoyed doing before, but because of his assumptions that she needed to be treated like with kid gloves, and her own fears of her past, which are all very understandable. Both of them made very rational decisions here, but it resulted in, because of the lack of self-awareness, the depolarization, so that 5 years later they weren't passionate for each other. And then he came back and asked me about this. And this is when I found out we found out together that she actually wanted him to be more sexy, and actually a lot further than he had ever gone before, but she didn't know how to ask for it. And that's the thing, a woman should never have to ask for things in the bedroom, because that's for a woman's going to think that's the man's job. He's got to take the initiative and do it and go ahead and take it. And he was afraid to do that. And over time, the honeymoon phase died pretty quickly because of the lack of polarization. What happened was he became afraid of hurting her, and that turned into, over the years, her having to take more charge and her being in the more bully position, and then her lashing out at him. So at that time in their relationship, she just lashes out at him, scolds him very publicly and very loudly, and he just gets quiet, does this, and is just being very passive and holding in to himself. And he gained a lot of weight and just wasn't happy with his life. Also just stagnated in his career. And those are all signs that the depolarization's happened, that a masculine man has become a lot less masculine. So by introducing his masculine core into him, by getting him back in touch with that bad part of him, the little killer in him, he was able to rekindle that. And all he had to do was show her that, yes, he can be this killer bad boy, but when he turns to her, he's the gentle teddy bear that will never hurt her, but can always access that part of him, and that's incredibly attractive. Especially evolutionarily, it just shows he's able to protect the family, he's able to get ahead in the world, he's not going to be pushed around or bullied by others, and he will go out and he has drive and will succeed and achieve and move forward. That's the deeper answer. So there's a more superficial one, which is the easiest one to hit first, is just introduce more variety. And the second one is to rediscover, rekindle, and strengthen the masculine essence or the masculine core in you. An easy way to do that is to come to one of our live events or to get any of our trainings. Limitless is really a very thorough program, an online training program. And if you can take one of the live events, we have a series of in-person exercises where I take you through over a period of 18 hours, rediscovering and reinvigorating your masculine core. All right, so join the Man Up movement and click on the link and get on the Facebook group, the private Facebook group. Ask your questions there, post your comments there, and I look forward to hearing from you. All right, man, see you next time.